After much debate on that completely hacked up Robyn SB-540D, I decided to tackle it. And here you're looking at a SB-540D main circuit board. And for starters, if you'll notice, there is no gigantic crack going across here. I did have to do some circuit board repair, a little bit right here, which isn't uncommon on pretty much any radio for it to crack out around maybe one or two screw holes. I'm fortunate enough to have pretty much a parts radio, pretty much every radio ever made, I think, sometimes. And I have a couple SB-540D parts radios. So I told the customer I'd take a look, see what I had. And here we have a good condition circuit board that has been extracted from a parts chassis. Like I say, it had a small crack here, so that's been re-epoxied. It's been heat cured, but I'll let it cure for 24 hours completely before the board's reinstalled and the screw tightened down. But it's been cleaned up probably, God, half a pint of IPA cleaning it up. So it's all nice and shiny now. And before I even put this back in the radio, it's one of those, you already have it out. Why wait until it's in the radio before you recap the damn thing? So while it's still sitting in the circuit board vise, it'll get recapped. But you get her flipped over here. So there is the circuit board. There's the other side of the repair. And then, like I say, once this cures, then here I can actually, because the screw needs to go there, I'll actually flatten it out right where it mounts on the tab that hangs out on the on the chassis, and then around where the screw head is, so it's perfectly flat. But like I say, I'll wait until that's completely cured after 24 hours. But so you can see here, it's been thoroughly scrubbed off and cleaned. And of course you can tell this one does not have all those goofy ass poor and sloppy repairs and hacks and just, yeah, that, like I say, that board, the more I looked at it, the more I was like, there's no way I want to even touch that. And after working on the last radio I just did, I don't think I ever want to take on a modified radio again, because the last one, that's a whole nother story, and I don't even get into it, because I'm just about done with these butchered radios. But like I say, in this case, we're fortunate. We have a spare board we can stick in here. So, like I say, I'll recap this one while it's out. I took the PLL unit out. That's one thing that'll be in good condition in the customer's radio, so I'll actually use his PLL can in place of this one. And then, of course, we have a PLL shield, which this is missing in his, so we'll have a proper RF shield for the PLL can. But, so there you go. There's the Robyn SB-540D main chassis, and this is a 1306, 1307 driver and final transistor radio. If you can be able to read any of that. Yeah, there you go, 1307, and get the bias diode and coil out of the way there, and a 1306. So there's the driver and the final transistor. But, so like I say, while this is still mounted in the vise, it'd be a hell of a lot easier to recap this thing, so I can go ahead and change out all the electrolytic capacitors, and then get to installing this thing, which is a bit of a chore. All of these wires, what I did was, like I say, the other one's just a parts chassis, so I just whacked off any wires that go from the main board to anywhere on the chassis. All those wires were just clipped off short, and then any jumper wires that stay on the board, they of course were left on the board because there's no need to change them. They're just jumping from one circuit trace to another. But yeah, this is what makes it a bit of a chore. These are all the connections that you have to make then from the main board over to the, either the keypad control circuit board or power supply, and all the other circuits. So you got all the coax cables for audio and any signals and all that. So all that's, like I say, I can just remove those because I'll just use the customer's radio. And what I'll do is I'll thoroughly tape up the front of the radio so there's no chance of doing any damage to it. And then I can, one wire at a time, pull wire off of his existing circuit board in his radio, and I'll have this one standing up, kind of in there sideways, and I can just then transfer one wire at a time, back and forth till I get it in. And I'll actually probably just leave the PLL can out while I'm doing that. That makes it a lot easier, because all of these empty holes you see here, all of those need to be populated, all these here. So it'd be a lot easier to be working on this with the PLL can out anyhow. So, and not only that, when I recap his, like I say, this one is just going to stay for parts. You know, there's a couple of aluminum electrolytics, and of course the little time bomb tantalums, all of those will be changed too in his. But like I say, I'll use his PLL can, but because that's okay in his radio. But there you go. There's a good condition Robyn SB-540D main chassis board, getting ready to be recapped and transplanted into an extremely nice condition externally radio that has been repaired with a pickaxe, it looks like, over the years on the inside. So we're going to try and take care of that with this critter. Oh, and if you see this little board sitting down here, this one actually goes, it mounts in here. This is the coax out to the antenna jack, and this little board actually mounts up on the chassis like this. This is your SWR board, so that's why it's just removed. I just left the wires attached and I just clipped them off just now. Yeah, it's actually the SWR board, so the RF goes through the one wire, and then the other wire is the actual pickup. So that's where it taps off. So that we won't need. That we can use that as a customer's radio as well. Oh, and then for anybody curious, there is the board number on one of these. So if anybody is like me and writes down every circuit board or chassis number that they can find, I've got a binder or a spiral bound book just full of, God, several hundred, probably well over 1,000 by now, different circuit board numbers that I write down. And it's a good idea. Yeah, it's one of those things that information you don't often need, but man, when you need a part or something like this, a circuit board for something that you just can't find, or you need a oddball part, it fits this model chassis, but what other radios did that come in? I can just go to, I can just go down here and grab my book, flip to a page, and just see exactly what fits every single chassis. It's taken me years and years collecting all that data, but like I say, that's a handy little tip for anybody that works on radios for a living. Every time you work on a radio, write down the chassis number or the circuit board number and what model radio it was in. So so it is definitely, the 50-50 chance has turned into a 100% chance, because I wasn't sure. I was 50-50 if I was going to work on this radio or not, so it's now 100% sure this radio will get restored. So like I say, once this gets recapped, it'll be transplanted into the radio, and we'll be back with a final video on it to show it back in working order. Okay, here we are back with the Robyn SB-540D main circuit board. Has been recapped now. So all the electrolytic capacitors have been replaced in this, and it's now ready to be reinstalled, or not reinstalled, it's ready to be swapped into place of the broken and butchered board that's currently in the radio. So here's all of the old capacitors that were just taken out, and boy, they sure do like their 10 microfarads, because there are a shitload of them in this radio. But then there's new capacitors installed. The only thing I use are Nichicons. So they're actually, all of these are PW series. You can see they're all brown with the exception of one capacitor, and that's this large one here, and that one has been upgraded. And actually all of the capacitors have been upgraded pretty much, because most of them were like 35, and a lot of them were even 16 volt caps. So let's see, actually some of them were even 10s. You see that one, that's even just a 100 microfarad, 10 volts. Every capacitor in here now is a 50 volt cap, but this one's been upgraded. Your audio filter cap, that was originally a 2200 16 volt, and it's now a 3300 50 volt. So, and that's a VR series. That's the only one that's not PW series. I say all the rest of these are PW. That's a VR series. So there you go. That's what it looks like before it gets stuck back into or swapped out into the radio. And then the underside, and this is one also, the back there, that's where I'd done the little chipped out part, repaired the board. And there's the underside all cleaned up, all the flux residue removed. So just wanted to tack this on to the video, the completion of the board before installation. Then I'll make a separate video of this once it's actually installed and the radio is working again.